Hey guys, what's up? This is Theo here, and welcome back to Free Code Camp, Lesson 4 here on Responsive Web Design Certification, CSS Grid. So in this lesson, we will be placing items into grid areas using the grid area property. So in the last lesson, we sort of defined the different grid template areas, right? And so I was a little confused with why you would need this. But now this lesson sort of adds some context to it. So in that, when we give an item a grid area of header, it will be placed in one of these areas. In this case, the item uses the entire top row because that whole row is named as the header area. So we're going to use item 5 in the footer area, which will be the bottom one. So we can say grid area, and we can say footer, and it should go down to the bottom. Cool. Awesome. So let's go ahead and run our test, and we'll go to Lesson 2, use grid area without creating an areas template. So the grid area property you learned in the last challenge can be used in another way. If your grid doesn't have an areas template to reference, you can create an area on the fly for an item to be placed like this. 1, 1, 2, 4. This is using the line numbers you learned about earlier to define where the area for this item will be. The numbers in the example above represent these values. So grid area, horizontal line to start at, vertical line to start at, horizontal line to end at, and vertical line to end at. So the item in the example will consume the rows between lines 1 and 2 and the columns between lines 1 and 4. Okay, so 1, 4, and then 1 and 2. All right. So place the element item 5 between the third and fourth horizontal row. And so it'll basically show us if you don't want to think about it. But we can sort of see horizontal line to start at, right? It's going to be 3. And then... So we need to do grid area. Grid area is going to give us, we want 3, 1, 4, 4. And now sort of same thing, right? We've had it start at horizontal line 3. Now if we move it up to 2, right? You can sort of see it starts at 2, 1, it'll go up to the top. So we want it to be on the last one, right? And you can keep pushing it down. It won't do anything because we only have 4 rows that we've defined, but let's put it up to 3. 1, want it to start there. 2, we can keep bringing it over. You can sort of see how this works. 4, right? This is where the horizontal is going to end, so we could say 2, right? We want it to end there. 3, want it to end there. And then we could also mess with this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. And sort of see how it expands there. Cool. So let's change this back to 3, 1, 4, 4. Let's go ahead and run our test. Good to go. Number 3, use the repeat function. So when you use grid template columns and grid template rows, you enter a value for each row or column. Let's say you want to grid with 100 rows of the same height. It isn't very practical to insert 100 values individually. Fortunately, there's a better way by using the repeat function to specify the number of times you want your column or row to be repeated, followed by a comma and the value you want to repeat. Here's an example that would create the 100 row grid, each row at 50 pixels tall. So repeat, so 100, this is rows and then the height. Okay, so and then there's other functions. So again, rows, and then this is the grid structure. So let's go ahead and try it to remove repetition from the grid template columns. So what we're going to do is change this to be, I think we just want repeat of 3 and then 1 FR. Sorry, 1 FR. And then I think we run that. That should get it. All right, cool. And let's say using min-max is number 4. So we're going to look at a min-max function used to limit the size of items when the grid container changes size. You just specify the acceptable size range. So we'll start from 50 pixels. This is the minimum width, and this is the maximum width. So container class should have a grid template columns property that is set to repeat 3 columns. And with the minimum width of 90 pixels. And let me see. Template columns, repeat 3 pixels. And then what do we need to change? Replace the 1FR in the repeat function with the columns. With the column size as minimum, so we're going to say min-max. We're going to give it this function of 90 pixels and 1FR. Sort of does the same thing, and we can sort of see as we As we scale down, or sorry, 200, we just keep going up, right? Awesome. Right, and we change that back to 90. Good to go, run our test, and looks like we have, is this the last one? Let me make sure. Min-max function, how many did we do? One, grid the grid, 1, 2, 3, 4, and yeah, so we're on the 5th one. Sorry about that. Okay, so create flexible layouts using autofill. The repeat function comes with an option called autofill. This allows you to automatically insert as many rows or columns of your desired size as possible, depending on the size of the container. You can create flexible layouts when combining autofill with min-max. So when the container changes size, the setup keeps inserting 60 pixels column and stretching them until it can insert another one. In the first grid, use autofill with repeat to fill the grid with columns that have a minimum width of 60 pixels and maximum of 1 FR. The resize of the preview is set to autofill. So container class should have a grid template column property with repeat and autofill. Okay. And so we're just going to say autofill. And we can sort of see if we expand this, right? See it expanding. All right. All right, good to go. So that's it, guys, for lesson 4. Looks like we have one more lesson. It's going to be a short one, and then we're going to move on to the responsive web design certification, sort of get into more of the meaty stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Check out the courses in the description box. So the courses on Udemy for React, JavaScript, if you want to learn any of that. Good stuff. Help you get a job. Learn some new modern technologies. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you guys in the next video. Take care.